You good?
Yes, there you go.
Ah, I really don't know what happened. I've never had a
Good.
problem. This
See, the
this
devil's a
episode must
lie.
be gonna be real good. It must be gonna be real good, cause yeah, I don't know why this is giving me such a hard time, but I want to just really
Hmm.
go back and real quick just to make sure that everything is. Uh, I had such a nice little banner. Oh, the live video has ended. All right. Hmm, okay. Uh, There we go. All right. You should be able to share it now if you happen. I have no. Listen, I don't know what's going on, but we're just gonna give
It's
God all the
okay.
glory,
That's right.
all the
That's right.
praise. Oh
That's
my
right. We're gonna
goodness.
shake it. We're gonna shake it.
Shake it
We're gonna
off,
shake it.
right?
The devil's mad.
Ah,
That's all right. That's all
Lord.
right. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. And I'm
Mm,
learning.
Man, listen. Um, just this week, I have been trying to like there's I've been trying to watch my mouth, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
really trying to watch my mouth, be not being negative, not talking about people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because we can get
Mm-hmm.
like suckered into that, like at work, and oh, what happened? Oh, I
Easily.
got some tea,
Easily.
and
Yes.
I'm trying really hard not to not to like fall into things like that, because I've
Right.
got better things to do with my time, to be honest with you, than
Mm-hmm.
to be worried about what people think of me, or what people have said about me, or what other people's business, and especially if it didn't come from them. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So I'm trying to really
Exactly.
hard to change the way that I speak, to change what I'm
Okay.
listening to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
even all the way down to the music I'm listening to. So that has been a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of a challenge. But on another note, everybody, this is Poetic Serenity. We had such a bad communication error thing going on, and I apologize because I did not give her justice. She is an author. She's a poet. I've had the opportunity to share the platform of being interviewed at the same under Jay Rose. If you don't know who Jay Rose is, let's go back to that. She really is she's a creator. I
Mm-hmm.
followed her all the way out in Queens, and then from there, that kind of like the poetic scene for me kind of just branched everywhere. So now I'm kind of like nationwide. But with Poetic Serenity, she has such a sweet spirit about herself. We were I said I was going to bring my tissue boxes because she really had me in tears. um she was so vulnerable in her interview, but I love her, and she's what better yet to have somebody who has experienced loss that could tell it from her perspective. And so we have this episode was just something to give an opportunity for people to see, hey, this is the way we dealt with grief, and we're still persevering, we're still thriving. And but it's okay to have some setbacks when it comes to that, because we lose people, and we lose people that are very dear to us. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be insensitive to that. I know that I was sharing with Serenity uh, the other day that there's been so much loss in my life, that I've become desensitized, and I don't even mean to do it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't mean to do it. Some of the things that I'm preparing for just this episode today, and I had shared it with Poetic Serenity, some different types of grief that we deal with. One of them was divorce and relationships. The other one was loss in your health, loss in a
Mm-hmm.
job, loss in financial stability. Um, Even a miscarriage is a loss. Retirement. Having to, you know some people are depressed because they, they have to retire because they physically are incapable of being able to work. Sometimes for some
Mhm.
people, having a sense of stableness in their environment is, as far as working, that's stability for them. You know what I mean? That helps with their mental health. And sometimes they're unable to do it. The death of a pet, like we don't, there's people that grieve their pet, loss of, um, someone being someone losing their loved one because of a serious illness, loss of friendship. um, what was the other ones? Loss of having to sell a family home, and then loss of
Mhm.
safety in trauma. Like, I didn't
Yes.
even realize that was a thing. You lose, safety, um, after dealing with a trauma. So those were just some of the
Mhm.
things that I had kind of stumbled upon preparing for today. And I can tell you that out of that list of 12 poetic serenity, that I've probably experienced 5 or 6 of those things. Like,
Mhm.
from,
Same here.
yeah. So one of the things for me was divorce. The
Mm.
loss of the loss of I thought who was supposed to be my soulmate, and that was due. and
Mhm.
and a lot of people who follow me, they do know my story, that I actually married a pedophile. um and so when that information became, when I was forced to face that, um because the girls, told, thank God that they were able to share. um I lost, mm, my husband. I had to grieve him as a loss. And man, did
Right.
that took over a course of 5 years before I could even think about, okay, I'm finally facing everything. I had to get over. I had to get well, because I did not.
Mhm.
Oh man. But when you find out your ex-husband was molesting our daughters, you know, first of all, you gotta face that first, and deal with
Right.
that first, and then the shame, the guilt, the how did this happen when I was an abused victim myself? Like, I had a
Mhm.
lot of questions, and I don't know how many times I had to go back, like, how did I miss it? How did I not see it? And then I was forced to get some information. Like, I had to learn, like, I don't ever want this to happen to me again. you know um you know then I was, I got educated by my therapist, and she was telling me about you know what grooming was, and how specific they
Mhm.
are, how calculating they are. And so
Mhm.
I had to get over so many things, and then getting over him, like, that took over a course of 5 years. Then I was able to say,
Mhm.
okay, I can finally, put a lot of this to rest. I'm healthy mentally. Then I went and did the divorce, but it took me over 5 years to get over it. Like, over 5 years, it's not something you ever get over, right? But
Oh
it is
yeah.
something.
Right.
But like, in retrospect of being able to, like, breathe, live, move forward in life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I had to
Mhm.
lose him. I had to really get over the fact that, yeah, this happened, and there's no coming back from it, and he's dead to me. You know what I mean? And even though I
Mhm.
had children with him, that I tried to do the best I could, and with the boys that he had, because we were a blended family.
Mhm.
I didn't want to keep, the boys that we had together, or, you know but I even then, there was still some manipulation, and I had to just completely cut him off. And the kids
Mhm.
started to get older, so they were able to make their own decisions. But that's just one. Like, I can go on and on
Mhm.
about that story, you know what I mean, that part of my life. But I wanted to give
But
you an
it's major.
opportunity. Huh? Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
no, but that's a major, And as you were talking,
Mhm.
am I getting feedback? Because I know
I don't have
I'm kind
any
of getting
feedback
feedback.
on my part.
Okay. So like you said, as you were going and I'm listening to, when I dig deeper into the 5 stages and you dealt
Mhm.
with all 5 stages and your final stage is just accepting, not saying you get over it. Because I hate when people always say, and I'm not going to lie, when you're dealing with any kind of grief, oh, you'll get over it. Oh, in due time, you'll never forget it.
No,
You'll never, you just accept it. You
right.
just accept it because the thing about it, you have to still live on,
That's
you
right.
know. But with that situation, because it's heavy on so many aspects, like, this is somebody that you love, you
Mhm.
know, and like you said, you're a blended family. So not only do
Mhm.
you have your children, you had his children, y'all became one. So you
That's
became
right.
one with a spouse, you became one with your children. And
Mhm.
then when all this happened, it was a split. It was a discord in that oneness, and now it's broken. And like you said, not only did you lose, your husband, you got, your children, and like you said, it's just now it's a thing like, okay, how are they going to react? How are they going to grow up? It's a whole other different mindset now. It's a lot. It's a
It
lot,
it was,
and
yes, it really was a lot, because it didn't just stop with me or start with me, right?
right.
You hit it right on the nose. My kid, it affected them in such a way, like, oh man, I mean, there's so many things that happen just with the girls alone, and then
Hmm.
when the boys, finally found out what their father had done, it was like a smack in their face, and they dealt with it very hard.
Right.
So then, that's woo, maybe that's another story for another
Yeah.
time. But I mean, I knew it was important that the whole entire family get therapy, and we
Right.
needed to have family therapy, and that was helpful. That was very helpful. um but that's just one aspect of a loss. Did you care to share one of the bullets points that we were looking at, or something that you might have
Sure.
been
So,
dealing with?
yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I wrote down, like you said, all the different losses. And I know with mine, it hits close because I lost both sets of my parents.
Mhm.
Recently, I
Right.
just lost my grandmother. And it was funny because I had wrote down my childhood home, and I didn't know that that was on the list until I wrote it down. So it's like my grandparents had raised me. So when the matriarch passed, my grandmother, that was it.
Mhm.
But like I know, but when we met about 6 years ago, I had just lost my mom, and I lost my mom in a way when she had went and got like a triple bypass surgery, but she didn't come out of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
to this day, I don't like to say I don't trust the medical
It's
field.
there, but it's there.
I try
There.
to be careful. But yeah, she came in, she was vibrant just as you and I are talking. I remember right before the operation, I talked to her, and I remember when they was reeling her in, I remember seeing this tear, coming from her eye. And I'm like, Mom, it's going to be okay. It's going to be
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
So my brother and I, we were out, when she was getting the operation, and then we get a call saying, oh, everything was fine. Okay, cool. We're ready to go back to the hospital. And then get ready to go into the room, into the ICU, whatever, the recovery. She wasn't there. Like, what happened? So I think it
Mhm.
was a cold blue. So try to make a long story short, you know, she didn't pull, her body started shutting down. Her body
Mhm.
started shutting down. So within like the next 2 weeks, she was just out of it. And it was, when I say it was the hardest thing. Like I said, this is one of those things like you always say, you never wish that on anybody, not even your worst
Yeah.
enemy,
I
to
used to
just
say
see
that
those
too.
tubes in her.
Mm.
Yeah, just seeing like my mom, like this is not real. And me and my brothers, we'd be like, this is not happening. And then yeah, I remember the day she died, we were all there. My dad was there. My mom and my dad, they had divorced. My dad always still had love for my mom. I still kid around and say, when my mom heard my dad's voice, she was like, "I'm out of here." She's like, she's like, no. She's like, I told y'all, I don't want to see him, but
Mhm.
and that's a thing too. I use humor as a
Okay.
coping mechanism. Me and my brothers, we use humor as a coping mechanism. Reason why I do that, my mom was like that too. Everything was funny, even though it shouldn't be,
Mhm.
but that was just how we, coped with it.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like, but I do really think like when she heard his voice, she was like, "I'm out of here." But yeah, that was just the hardest, because it was just unreal. It's still unreal, to this day.
Oh yeah. Because
It
like it
it
was supposed to be some sort of, you know, 100% guarantee. You know what I mean? Like you go in there, oh, we
right,
do this all the time. We do this, surgery all the time.
exactly.
We have plenty of experience, and then
Hmm.
you go back, and it's like, what happened? Like, what went wrong?
Exactly.
Do you know what went wrong?
Exactly.
Or
So it was, and that was the thing too. It was getting like so many different stories, and it was one part that one of the doctors said she had a heart attack during the surgery. We didn't find that out until later. Um, Basically, her heart, it just something happened, and they had to go back and do it again. It was just so much, so many different stories. To be honest, I really don't know. We really don't know the truth. We got an autopsy. They try to say it was due to natural causes, whatever. No. I mean, I know she had high blood pressure and she had different things, again, in African community, that's usually what it was. She was overweight, she had clog, and I get it, but no,
mm,
we're still like not,
100%.
whatever. But I went into a dark place for a while.
Hmm.
I did. I went to a dark place for a while.
Yeah.
This is one thing I always tell everybody, and this is the truth. I say, even though despite everything that happened, I never blame God.
Hmm.
Some people might like, well, why did faith is the only thing that kept me. And I say is even keeping me to this day.
Mm,
Because I promise you, without the faith that I have, I don't even know where I would have been at that time.
mm,
I was not in a good place. There was so many things going on, personal wise, marriage wise. It was just too much. I'm not going to say I didn't care. I just, like, I did just like whatever. Like, I
yeah.
was like, I'm just here. I'm just doing whatever I need to do. Um, and the hardest part was when she died. It was a couple of days before, uh, actually, she died April 4th, and my
Mm,
daughter's birthday is April 8th.
mm,
So having to celebrate my daughter's birthday,
yeah.
um, hard,
Yeah.
hard. Um, yeah, and then my dad died 2 years later, during COVID, and I didn't even get to see him because it was during that time they had the whole lockdown. You
Hmm.
couldn't do anything, you couldn't see anybody. I didn't even see him. I
Crazy.
didn't see him at all. And then 2 years later, my grandmother passed away. So yeah, so
And
it's,
these
it's
are all very, very close. This is your mother. This is your
these are
father.
my
Now your
peoples.
grandmother. I mean, this ain't no, cousin, fourth cousin down the way, or uncle so and so.
Right,
This, yeah.
right, right.
Girl.
So it was hard.
Yeah.
I thank God for my family, for my brothers.
Yeah.
We had each other, and we helped each other. Um,
So how do you
we
feel
haven't been
like,
to therapy yet.
no?
Mm-mm.
Well, I feel like, we when it comes to loss, and this is like no shade to, like, oh, for people who lose, because I've lost people. I lost my
Hmm.
father, I lost my cousin, um you know um I lost my pastor, like, yeah,
Hmm.
like, Dr. Lamont, I lost him, like, and I considered him, a spiritual father. So that was even hard.
Hmm.
I couldn't even see him, in the casket. I just didn't want to accept it,
Yeah.
you know. So and I had a best friend who passed away, and so with and this is just my experience. Like I feel like with loss, we know that tomorrow is not promised. Even today, the end of this broadcast is whatever's going to happen hours from now. It's not promised to us, and so I feel like that's why I don't blame God, because He says it in His Word, like no, no day is promised to any man. So
Mhm.
we have to live life, and when you're supposed to love in life, as if it was their last. You know,
Mhm.
we don't want to, like, our time here is so borrowed. you know, um,
Mm.
it's so borrowed that I don't wanna. I'm making it a practice to hug my mother when I see her. Even though she lives with me, I'm making it a practice. We weren't cuddled, we weren't loved on.
Right.
So I'm making it a practice to hug her when I see her, to kiss her when I see her.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we are on borrowed time, and that's what I have to keep reminding myself, that you know every time somebody passes, I don't want to be that time where, oh my God, I could have called
I
them, and
could have.
you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I don't want to do that anymore. Like when my cousin passed
Right.
away, you know, this recently, less than 6 months
Mm.
ago, uh, I,
Mm.
I I kept seeing that she was looking at my stories and things like that, even though she might not have been liking them, but I kept seeing her, and I kept, it kept, oh, I need to call her, I need to call her, I need to call her. And then I find out she died from breast cancer. Like, I'm like,
Mm.
this is the second time, she had been dealing with it, and so she kept it quiet.
Okay.
I was very devastated, and I'm just like, all those times, all those precious moments that I could have reached out to her, that I kept saying, "Oh, I need to call her, I need," and I didn't do it. So now I'm
Mhm.
making it a practice to make sure I call her kids, or at least text them, and text her
Yes.
husband. You know what I mean? Just to make sure that they're good. Let me know if you need anything. Actually be
Mhm.
there, for them. Instead of being this, I should have. I don't want that no more in my life.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
and this, and preparing for today, it was like an eye opener. I don't know. Like, I didn't realize all the different types of losses that I can connect to, because
Right.
that's the part where I was saying you're almost desensitized. It's like, all right, death is inevitable, right? So we just kind of like not realize that we kind of put things a lot on the wayside, and not
Right.
really put into practice to really be that better person, really be that, hey, I'm here for that person.
Right.
I wish, I wish, my kids took a approach like that. Like, I think that they're, not to, talk bad about them or anything like that, but I see the missed opportunities that they have, even just with me not picking up the phone when I call, like, and I'm getting very sensitive over that. Like, you just never know what I
Mhm.
need. I don't just call just
Mhm.
because, hey, just want to call, see how you're doing.
Right.
No, like, pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Let
Right.
me
Right.
peek into your
Right.
life. Just, everybody is dipping and going and dodging and running and ripping, and you know what I mean, going to work and then just
Mhm.
doing it all over again, and not even saying 2 minutes, taking them 2 minutes. Hey, mom, I just want to see how you doing. That would mean so much
Mhm.
to me.
Oh, I
So
know.
all I know is that I'm going to be an example with my mom,
Yes.
and hopefully that
Mhm.
it'll just catch on, because you got to be an example.
They will. They will.
uh,
They will. Especially, when you have adult kids, because my oldest son is 26, and I constantly text him like, "Hey, just checking on you, making sure you're okay." And I get it. I was the same way, because in your mind, you're like your parents are going to live forever. You think everybody's going to live forever. You see things happening, but you never really feel like it's going to happen to you. And in
Yeah.
some ways it's kind of good, and in some ways it's bad, the reality. And I think as you get older, and then as you start dealing with more things, and it's like we really don't have anybody else to lean on but ourselves, because our kids still have us. We still, you still have your mom, but it's like at the end of the day, you're the adult. You know what I mean? So like now you have to know you got to handle everything now. You got
Yeah.
to, whatever. So it's just different, but they watch. Trust me, my son, times where I think he wasn't listening when he was, younger, and he'll come back to me now and be like, "Mom, you were right."
Mhm.
you know, you were right.
Yeah.
So they will, and just keep loving them.
Yeah,
Keep
I
doing, like
mean,
you said, keep loving on your
they're
mom. Just,
getting it. Getting it. Even with them,
yeah,
like I want them to be close because they grew up. They were
right.
all like 1 year apart, things like that, and there was like
Hmm.
five of them that were all kind of clustered together. um,
Mm,
yeah, just the other day, I told one of my sons, I'm like, yo, when's the last time you spoke to your brother? Because I have a brother. They have a brother that had moved out, got his own place, his own apartment. And he was just like, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago. I'm like, no, baby. You don't let 3 weeks go without talking to him, like, at least once a
right,
week. So then the
right,
next thing,
right.
I must have did something because then the next thing he took his sister with him to go see his brother. So, you know what I mean?
Okay,
So yeah, yeah,
there you go.
gotta lead by example, and it's
Hmm.
catching on. So hopefully,
It
that we
will.
don't
It
take
will.
advantage of our family, and not, you know,
I know.
just be quiet.
It's heavy.
Just go to your
It's
room, not
heavy.
say anything. It is. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's almost silly. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
yeah.
They'll get it. They'll get it.
Okay.
They will. They will get. I
I
promise
feel
you.
like
They
they
will. They will
are.
definitely get it. They will.
I
They
I
will.
know. I
It's.
know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, me and my brothers, like we are like this. But when we were younger, and I guess me being the older sister, me and my youngest brother used to fight all the time. Like to me, he was like the mama's boy. He never would ever get in trouble. Stuff like that. Like we could not stand each other. But right now, that is my heart. Like that. Like both of my brothers are my heart. And like I say, when I say I thank God for them, I couldn't be able to make it without them. So when I say that I know it's going to be okay, they will be like this. They are like
Mhm.
this. They're going to be solid. They're going to
Well,
be solid. And
with your situation, I feel like because you lost both parents, all you guys have now is each other, and so you know
right,
what I mean. Like you
but
guys.
mind you too. But so on my mom's side, I have my brothers. On my dad's
Mhm.
side, I have sisters. I have four sisters, but I'm
Okay.
not close with them. And I wish I was, but I'm not. So it all depends on,
Yeah.
and I love them, and it's one of those things like if you need something, I'm here.
Mhm.
That's one thing with me. Even though if I don't speak with you or whatever, I take in consideration you're my family.
Mhm.
If it's something that if I'm capable of helping you with, I would try my best to do it. Now, you're not going to take advantage of it, but I
So,
would definitely help you. But
mhm.
yeah, I'm definitely closer to my brothers than I am with my sisters. For now, I would just
Yeah.
say for now. Hmm.
Well, I know with going back to, the loss of, the loss of my spouse in divorce, I also lost income. Um,
Mm,
yeah, he was the breadwinner. I had 7 kids at the time. Um, that
mm,
was, yeah, that was pretty scary.
yeah.
So I had to make some changes, in my income, and you know, um, I'm glad I did, but I think it's also equally important that you don't just grab anything,
Mm,
uh, just
hmm.
for the sake of, oh, I need to make ends meet. Of course, you got to do what you got to do, and I wouldn't, everybody's situation is different, but I kind of wish I would have um, looked for other options. I just took what what was the fastest and the easiest, and I just
Hmm.
felt like the job took me away from what was important, like, you know what I mean? Like, the kids,
Okay.
even though they were like 11, no, they were like 12 and 13, like old enough to stay, to stay home by themselves, but they were, for a lot of the majority of the time, they were by themselves. um
Okay.
I we were a two-parent home for a long time, so now it's just me and the kids have to like kind of raise themselves, and you know what I mean, without like, supervision, even though they were responsible, but there were some things that, they're kids, they're going to do kid things,
Right.
sneak people
Right.
in,
Right.
and things like that. Like, I did not like having to work overnight, even though it was the that I thought was probably best, so that I was home during the day. But you never in your life ever worked an overnight job, and then you try to do it, it's it's not easy. I don't think anybody really gets used to that. It's not natural to be working
Hmm.
overnight. But the
Hmm.
loss of income made me feel so defeated, because how am I going to feed all these mouths? How am I going to, take care of a mortgage, and something goes wrong with an appliance? Now I got I'm paying. I'm robbing Paul to pay Peter. Like, it was. I feel like I'm still in that same vicious cycle, because I was never. We weren't meant to be alone. You know, um,
Right. Right.
especially raising a family. So um, I just felt like it's been never ending in that loss. That loss of income really, really did a number on me financially, and you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, and there was no financial stability for a very long time. You know,
Okay.
so
Yeah. Yeah. And
that was the
like,
hard.
I know, I'm sorry. And I was going to say, like, like, 'cause I know you talk a lot of topics, like even on mental health, how
Mm,
loss and grief really takes a toll. It's a mental health issue
it's
because it's dealing with all areas. It's stress. How I'm going to do this. You know, then then it's taking a toll of your body physically. Your health gets affected.
mhm.
Your sleep, and then it's like, you have your children. It's like
Yep.
it's too much, and it's like you said, how are you going to handle this? How are you going to handle this? And that's why I always say it's faith,
Mhm.
because I think honestly, and I can even speak even for you, I know you pray. I know you ask. I know you're like, Lord, you have to make a way.
Mhm.
And he has, and he will, because I think that's what keeps us mentally stable.
It
Yes, we
does.
could talk to this person, we could talk to that person, we can have this, but if in your mindset isn't set to say, you know what, I need to focus on this. I need, because this is what's going to keep you.
Yeah.
It has to ground you, because you'll be all over the place. I was at that point. You'll be all over the place. You need something to solidify you, to set you grounded. And that's why I constantly say faith. I'm not the perfect person,
Yeah.
but I will say that my faith is what grounded me, and what's keeping me, and what tells me, and what's, told me that it's going to be okay, when I just thought that ain't no way it's going to be
Mhm.
okay. Um, Even when my grandmother died, my mom's sister is still alive,
Mhm.
but my brothers and I had to basically take care of her. So that was a whole process in itself, to move her from another state to come here,
Mm.
trying to sell the house, trying to get her settled. She didn't have a job, making sure she had income. My brothers and I are scrambling, trying to, like you said, when it's like, it's not just one thing that you lose, it's a domino effect.
It-
It's a
It's
domino
for
effect.
sure.
And it's, mm-hmm,
For
mm-hmm.
sure.
And especially when you just like, when it just comes out of nowhere. Because like you said, even in your situation, I know you thought never in a million years
Never.
that this would be it.
No, I
Never
thought
in a
I
million years would I think, this would happen.
no, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I did. I
Hmm.
just, you know, the, you know, the, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I did. I didn't I didn't expect to have to lose a husband. I didn't expect to have to lose, income. I didn't expect to have to lose, uh, the loss of financial stability, like all of that. My health did decline during that
Mhm.
during that whole ordeal. I ended up putting on way more pounds, and that's just simply because I was depressed. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I ate
Mhm.
a lot. I'm cautious
Mhm.
now, but I ate a lot, just to soothe. Um,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
some things that help me soothe. And you know what else I did? Not only was I in a financial deficit, I would end up shopping online, and I have clothes. When I looked at them, I had clothes.
Oh,
I mean, it's funny now because I now
right.
I don't spend nothing on no I don't spend nothing on myself at all. But I would online shop, and hey, I hope it fits. And then I just would never wear it because the kind of job that worked at, that I was at 50, 60 hours a week at, I'm wearing a uniform half the time. I don't even know why I bought them. And so I
Mhm.
ended up, that was just again another thing to help you know,
Mhm.
soothe me.
Mhm.
Trying to eat and trying to buy, shop online. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
that was a habit. It was definitely
Mhm.
a habit. It was a coping mechanism.
Mechanism.
Yeah,
Mechanism. Yes.
mechanism. Oh my God, why did I lose train of thought there? Yeah, it was a coping.
Mhm.
I wouldn't call it a skill, but it was definitely a
Mhm.
way for me to cope with what I was
Yes.
dealing with. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, um, I don't know.
It's a
I know
lot.
during all of that, having to go through all of that, I'm like, I couldn't handle anything else. So I stayed to myself. Like, if I was not working at my church, like my home church, I don't
Mhm.
know where I would be right now. I'm gonna tell you that right
I
now.
know.
So not only
Mhm.
was I getting therapy at home, but I was also getting therapy at church. And if I needed a
Right.
break, they got me. They had me. They pulled me right off of that
Right.
line, and they were like, counseling me, which is what I needed. And so I
Right.
always say this: it really, your life depends on where you go to church. And at the time of the church that I was going to, they were my lifeline. I felt like I was very fortunate to be in a position where if I needed prayer, if I needed somebody to talk to, I had that. I had that without any, you know, without any without a shadow of a doubt, I had somebody in my corner praying for me, somebody I could talk to spiritually. So I'm glad I had that. I had both. I had what I needed when I went home. The therapy was,
Mhm.
3 days a week for like 3 or 4 years. I had to go through that. I mean, this is not something that you just get over and like, oh well, I have to move on. It broke me
Mm-mm.
down emotionally. It broke me down physically, spiritually. Like, I didn't blame
Mhm.
God. I just couldn't believe, you know,
Right.
I just
Like
couldn't
this is happening
believe
to me.
how well, not just me, not, and I was always just thinking about the children, like,
Right.
how, you know what I mean? Like, you adopted, it started with him adopting my daughter, and then eventually I ended up adopting the boys, like, but you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
why did you invade her trust that way, just to do that? Just to do that,
Right.
just to kind of, you know what I mean? What kind of a man is that? And so the whole thing of all of that, and how I've been able to put a lot of that to rest, is that I have to leave him to God. I have to leave, my ex-husband to the Lord. I can't sit up here and try to figure out why. And these are things that I have been able to put to rest as far as getting answers, because I'm never going to get those answers. You know what I mean?
Right.
All I could tell you is that in the end, when he finally was out, he just said he was sorry. You know what I mean? When he finally did his time, and he was no longer worried about you know uh, our phone calls being recorded. He just said, "I don't
Mhm.
know why. I don't have an answer why, and I'm sorry." That's I was able to put that to rest after that. You know. So
Mhm.
I'm not here to really talk about so much just that specific situation. Just in general with this, how I dealt with it. It was therapy. I
Mhm.
needed that for my
Mhm.
mental health. Um, I had to make sure that my kids got rehabilitated in some form of fashion. That's my responsibility. I had to take accountability for that. You know what I mean? I can understand, you know what I mean? I can understand the fact that I did not know this would happen to me. But now that it
Mhm.
happened, now as the responsible parent, I have to be accountable for what happens next. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a lot of things I couldn't understand. There was a lot of things like like for instance, I thought I had a really good relationship with the girls that they could tell me anything. You know what I mean? Why did so many years go on without them feeling like they could trust me? And so that also was a rude awakening for me, right? That,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I wasn't maybe I wasn't maybe I was too confrontational with them because, after the after effects of something like this happening, they were being a little rebellious and things like that. So rather than dealing with the
Right.
fact that, okay, they're rebelling in retrospect to what happened, I'm still going through everything that I'm going through, um as far as emotionally with all of it. And then I have to try to separate what was going on with them at the same time. Like, it was, like you said, it's a ripple effect. It doesn't happen to just one person. And we're talking about me plus seven more. That's eight people that I had to be,
Right.
in charge of, not only my thoughts, but for the kids and all of that. Give me 1 second, okay?
Sure. Sure. Mhm.
There's something really loud, but go ahead. I've been doing a lot of talking. You take the next
Oh.
bullet point.
No, man, I'm just listening, and that's another thing too, is to have a listening ear. I think that's very important. Because sometimes I like to listen, I like to just get insight because I like to be careful with my words, um, especially when speaking on topics like this, dealing with grief and coping. Like you said, it's an effect mechanism. Um, just like I was just saying, as far as dealing with my mom, not only did it affect me, it affected my daughter, it affected my niece, it affected my
Yeah.
my son. It affected everybody, and then I went into depression. I still deal with depression. I know it's not actually labeled, but I know what it is. When I just have times when I just want to be self secluded. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. I literally just came out of that maybe a couple of days ago because even with grief, it's not just an everyday thing. It's sometimes you're fine, and next it's a trigger, or it could be a song, it could be something that triggers that memory, and it just brings you to that space again. And trying to get out of it's not always easy. That's why, like I said again, I know everybody's not always fortunate enough to have somebody um, be there when you're going through situations. That's why I always instill faith. I'm not a person, I'm not going to ram it down your throat, but it is something good to have to hold on to because at the end of the day, sometimes it's just going to be you and God. Sometimes it might not be that your best friend, your mom, whoever, they're not going to always be there. I think the hardest part when after my mom died is when, the dust settled, you have the funeral, you're still doing. And then once it's just stopped and it's over. And then it's like, that's when it just really sinks in, um, that this is true. That's when it becomes real. And I think that was, like I said, I think I kind of was in a rebellion stage too. Um, I just didn't care. And I didn't harm anybody. I didn't, I just really didn't care. And um, like I said, there was other areas that was going on in my life too. But again, it's only been what, 6 years. It's still kind of like fresh. I'm at the point now, looking at the 5 different stages, because I wrote that down too. Because you have the first stage, which is denial, your second stage, which is anger, your
Right.
third stage, which is bargaining, the fourth stage usually is depression, and then the last stage is acceptance. And they also said the stages aren't really in that order, but it's just like different parts of grieving.
So
But I
what
think
is
I fluxed.
bargaining?
Bargaining, they said, is make this not happen. I guess in your mind, I guess that you just try to make it seem like, you know what? I guess it's the part where you're just trying to like make it seem like, you know what, this isn't really happening. That's what I took out of it. The bargaining, to me, when I read it, I was like, I don't really think that fits with grieving. I don't think you bargain with it. I think really that basically goes more with acceptance, where you just like, okay, this is what it is. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. That's the part versus the first one they had as denial, saying, oh, this isn't happening. That was, I know my stage. I was like, I can't believe, she's gone. I can't believe whatever situation is going on is going on.
Like,
Um,
why her, not me type of thing?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I get that.
It was just, yeah,
Hmm.
it was just, like I said, even when my dad passed, it was my mom. It was still hard. I think with my dad, I actually talked to him that Saturday. He died Monday. I talked to him that Saturday, and I'm so glad that I spoke with him. Because remember, you were just like, "Oh, let me just call him." I'm always putting him off because he always asking for money, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? Let me just call him. Whatever, whatever." So that was my best friend. He was so funny. He just was just raw, sometimes too raw, but that was my homie. And we laughed, and I remember I was like, "Dad, I love you," all this stuff. And I was at work on Monday, and I got a call, and I was like, "Your dad died." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I just, what do you mean? Like, I just talked to him. I just literally talked to him." So just like when you just said, you never know. You never know. And it's one of those things that I'm so glad I don't have to have a shoulda, woulda, coulda moment. I did. So I have peace with that because you know what? I did. And I spoke with him, and I'm okay. So I feel like, you know, I'm okay with that. With my mom, I will never be okay. I just accept the fate, the card that we're handed. That was the hardest. And I bring that up even more with her because, like, even with my grandma, it was hard. Everybody else, but it was just seeing her on those machines.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought it was, that was the hardest. And I think when my grandmother had her heart attack at the nursing home and they wanted to bring her to the hospital, we were like, no. I was like, I don't want her on those machines. If she's not going to come through, I want her just to be peaceful. Just let her be in peace. I don't want that stuff on her. And I just, like I said, I just kept thinking about my mom. And I said, I would never wish that on my own, like I said, my own enemy. And I even, even with me, like if it even came down to a point where they had to resuscitate me, and if they had, mm-mm, don't even revive me. If I have to be on that machine, and that's the only thing that's going to keep me in it. If it doesn't help me, I don't want it. So it kind of brings a little bit of retrospective even on yourself. Certain things just reflect, you just look at things differently. Like you said, you look at things differently. You handle things differently. That's why I tell people, unless you lose a parent or you lose somebody, I'll say a parent, because you'll never get your mom back. I'm glad that your mom lives with you. Like I say, just every day, every moment, even for me, I love you, because once she's gone, she's gone. She's gone.
I knew this was gonna
She's gone.
happen. You guys gonna have me tearing
I,
up, and I knew this was gonna happen. I knew it. I knew it. I mean,
I was
I'm
like,
right.
oh, we doing good.
I already knew.
I was like, well,
Um, something that you said that you don't wish this on your worst enemy. I said the same thing about my situation. I know I didn't lose him as a physical death, but I definitely had to lose him as a physical partner. Um,
oh yeah.
yeah, I didn't. This pain for nobody, you know. Um,
Yeah, it's lost. Like I said, I know people think it's part of life, but until you deal with it, like I said, my brother and I, our conversations for years used to be the same thing. I know my daughter and my husband was tired of hearing. We would repeat the same conversation. We would talk about her constantly. It would be the same thing over and over, over and over, over and over. And you'd be like, maybe we need to just go to therapy, just talk it out and just, get it out. But we were we were laughing because like we're proud of ourselves because we don't talk about it as much. I guess because other things had happened, but that was our whole conversation. We would sit there and try to make sense of it. How did this happen? When did this happen? Just just is still trying to cope with the reality with it. I still have her hospital bag, with all of her stuff in it. My brother still has her clothes. My other brother stays in the house, so we still have those things of her. I won't touch it. I will never throw it out. It's just little keepsakes. It was my grandma. I just little keepsakes that you just have. Um, like I said, you never forget. You never have to forget. I hate when people say, "Oh yeah, in due time." In due time, what? In due time, what? They'll come back? No. you know, it's due time. No, you just learn how to live with it.
yeah, I don't know why people say that. I don't even think they realize that it's just that's kind of insensitive, especially when somebody has just lost someone. You know, just say, I'm praying for you, or you know,
Mhm.
but to say like, time will pass. This
Okay. And I think, you know what? I think people
I
mean
get
well. I
it.
think a lot of
They
times they just
do,
don't,
of
they
course,
don't know
but
what to say. You know what I mean? And I think I'm not gonna lie. I was guilty. I never knew pain, and I was like, oh, it'll get better. Just over time. But mm-mm. It's never a time. There was a poem that I had wrote, and that was the thing that helped me to cope with writing.
well,
That's when I started writing again.
please, quote the poem. Do you have it with you?
So I do have it with me. I did write it. This poem is called "Grieving Guilt," and I wrote this because it's like sometimes it's like you get tired of grieving. Not saying that you want to forget the person, or you just because it takes such a toll on you, and people don't understand how much mentally, physically, psychologically, in every capacity, emotionally, it takes over you, and then sometimes you just like, I don't want to even do it anymore, but you feel guilty for not doing it because it's like, oh, does this mean that I don't care about this person anymore, or I don't love them anymore? So I was kind of battling that, and then as you know, I am a poet, but yes, and like when we met on J Rose, and I think it was God that brought us together on that, because I didn't even know when she was coming to Philly. I just happened to just hit her up, and I was like, "Oh, you coming to Philly?" I was going to just meet her, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, just you want to come on the show?" And I was like, "Oh, okay," and then met you, and like I said, our stories just connected. We connected, and
We did.
again, I, and I just wanted to say thank you again, for this platform, for everything that you're doing, and just allowing this space and this time and opportunity, because I just really hope that this will really just help somebody that's going through this. And like you said, just sharing our words, sharing our gift. Thank God for the gift um, that we have. Like I said, I started writing after my mom died, and then that's when I got the best of one regret. I wish that she was alive to see me become an author. But I know she's proud of me. you know, um, my dad too. But God does things for a reason. We don't always understand why He does things. It doesn't always make sense
Well,
why
I
it
don't know if
happens.
he. So I feel like he allows things to happen, not so much that he
Hmm.
does things, but he does allow things to happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't
I
understand,
agree.
but mhm,
I agree. I agree. And again, that's why I keep stressing faith. I keep stressing faith just for anybody who
for
might be
sure.
battling with it. It's just hold on. Just hold on because honestly, it's all you have. It's really all you have.
Yeah.
And God will open up doors. He will help you. He will help you. He will help you. You just got to trust. And I think that's the hard part when you go through so much is that trust. It's like,
Mhm.
can I trust again? Sometimes you're afraid to trust because you don't
Yeah.
want to get hurt in whatever the situation is, because it hurts too much. It's definitely a pain that it's undescribable. Like like when somebody's like, "How do you describe child pain?" I can't. I just this is one of those things that you just have to go through. And when you experience it, you'll just be like, oh, okay, that's where you were talking about. So I guess I kind of equate that to grief a little bit. Unless you kind of go through it, it's really hard to explain how it is and what you go through to do it. So just, Mama, stop talking because I could go on forever, but I just wanted to just read this poem
Not I
real
just yes,
quick.
please, please. And I know you have a couple,
Okay.
so go ahead and share them
I
all.
got Actually, I wrote down this one. I wrote down this one. It's called Grieving Guilt. As time moves on without you, it's hard to forget you. Memories play in my mind about your last day. I replay hoping that things will change. I want to pause to the last time I held you. Rewind to the time I said I love you. Fast forward to when I heard your voice saying I love you too. I want to forget sometimes because it still feels unreal that you are gone. I feel grieving guilt because I want to hold on, but I want to let you go too. I know that it will never happen. I suppress the pain by remembering your laughter that was contagious, grabbing our bellies and streaming tears of joy, but now they have turned to tears of sorrow. Each day I manage to get through, obtaining the strength to deal with tomorrow. I want to forget. I want my feelings to become numb, but I dare not forget you. So I will just do what I always do, accept this fate and live on. I will always I will always feel this void. Nothing can replace your space. Grieving guilt won't let me let you go. So I know now I can't, so I won't. Poetic Serenity, Grieving Guilt.
Beautiful.
So that's basically my thank yous. That's basically all my emotions in that
Yeah.
piece.
Oh, I have a couple of pieces that when my father passed.
Mm,
They're really really short, but this is exactly how I was feeling on day one. And it
hmm.
calls. Hold
Yes.
on one second. I have a lot of feedback. I think I don't know, but these are called my words. Today I am seeking asylum. Today I don't even want to talk. Today I don't want to have or give or lead with the right words to say. It's just my thoughts that win today. Today and only today, I will give room for words that will amount to nothing, words that will stand alone on their own, and words that will leave wounds for a moment. Then I know I'll have to stand on the only words that matter, that only words my heavenly Father have spoken unto me and has said it to me, so that it is well within my spirit, my words. Then the next day,
Mm.
I felt the day after next. It's the day after next. I'm a little bit stronger, still a little bit empty, but I can appreciate the life that surrounds me. I can appreciate my loved ones that I am around than I did yesterday. So I'm actually going to try out this metaphor that people often say, that treat every day like it was your last day.
Mm.
Day next after, and then the day after that, which was now day 3, it's the day after, and none of it seems real. It's empty. Knowing that you have finally gone to rest, knowing I will never see you again, is pressure. Pressure so heavy I can hardly breathe. Pressure so heavy I've tried to let out the screams, but instead I only let out steam. Could I have spent more
Mm.
time with you? Could I have done more for you? The weight of this guilt is pressure. I'm sorry, Daddy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
It's
kind of
real.
like the things that I have felt when my father passed, because I did have a lot of unresolved pressure with him. You know, I don't talk about this part of my life too much, because it's my father and things like that. But I looked up to him a lot, growing up and things like that. And he wasn't an affectionate person. So can you hear the background in my house? Like,
I can't hear you. No, I can't hear it.
okay, good, because I mean, there I can
Mm.
hear it, but I pray and hope that nobody else is listening.
No, you're
Okay,
you're
so
good. You're good.
Um, just to kind of like say what all this was about, I had a lot of unresolved feelings because, my dad was a pastor, but then he abandoned us, right? He abandoned us to be with someone else. So there's that. Plus being, there's church hurt. Now, even though I'm an adult, I'm a young adult, I'm 19 years old when this happens, and leading up to it, it was like my dad wasn't being truthful or honest with the infidelity part of it. Like, we all knew who it was, we all knew all of that, and he just kept denying it, and then you know he ended up with her. So there's that to go over. And then there was nobody from the family came, could we come and support him for the marriage? We're talking about, a year or 2 years later.
Right.
And so I go there, and I don't even know why I did it, because I was I was so sad. I was so sad. And I don't know why I did that. Like, why I put myself through it, why I took my sister with me. Like, I don't know why I did it. I think I just wanted to be um part of him, part of him, to be a part of him in his life somehow. When you're
Hmm.
a daughter, you want your dad, you know what I mean? You want to have that daughter and father relationship that you see all your other friends have, you know so I do talk in depth about how I became who I became, and that has to do with the way of my upbringing was. But then, I get pregnant. He spent my whole pregnancy, didn't talk to me. So then there was isolation of it. And are we here? Okay.
Wait.
The abandonment
Yes.
issue of
Okay.
it, and then, you know, and then getting married and him not coming to the wedding, which I felt like maybe that had because I didn't want him to marry me. I wanted him just to walk me down the aisle, and I just felt like I just felt like there was a lot of things that he could have done right that he chose not to do right, and then then this happens. He ended up finally passing away from having Alzheimer's. So by the time you become an adult and you want to address some of these things, now he's mentally, you know what I mean, mentally sick.
Hmm.
So you can't even
Right.
have these conversations with him, Um, so having him pass away and me not being able to address any of these things, you know what I mean? That's just how I was feeling. Like the first day I was numb. The next day, I
Mhm.
felt a little bit better, you know, but that third time it was just like I can't believe this is a reality. All my shoulda, woulda, couldas, you know what I mean? I could have stood up for myself, have had better conversations, but I was still growing. I was still, trying to be
Right.
this adult mother, because I had a child when I was a teenager, and now I'm an adult having kids, in relationships that weren't working out, and I didn't have, there's just a lot of things I wish I had, I could have um, had I knew how to communicate better. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But that I don't know. That kind of just brought up
Oh,
some stale feelings that I still have.
oh yeah, and you know what? And this is good. Like I said, it's good because it's a relief. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we might not always get the answer. We may never get the answers, and it's
Right.
okay.
I'm definitely
And I
okay.
think, oh yeah, no, and I say that because some people hold on to that anger
Yeah.
part of it, and it really, like I said, it's so many different emotions that can attach to
Mm-hmm.
grief, and if you don't know how to deal with it in a healthy way, it will consume you. It will consume you because, like
Yeah.
I said, depression, it can take you in so many different ways. Whether, like you say, you ate, I lost weight. I didn't want to eat, as much as I love sweets, I didn't want to look at any kind of food. Um, Angry, bitter.
Yeah.
It's so many different ways that it can take you. And people are like, is there a healthy way to grieve? It is. You know,
Yeah.
it's no time. And that's another thing too I wanted to address. Like, yeah, time heals all wounds. Well, no. I will feel this way until the day I die. My grandmother was 80, 83, 85 when she died. She still wanted her mother, you know, who died probably 30 years ago. But here is this older woman still, grieving over the loss of her mother, loss of her husband, you know, her daughter, my mom was her daughter. That, how she had to say goodbye, I think it was the most saddest way because I'm in, Philly. My grandmother was in New Jersey. She didn't get a chance to physically say goodbye. I had to put my grandmother on the phone and put the phone next to my mother's ear, whether she heard it or not, and have her mother say goodbye to her eldest daughter through the telephone. That part hurts me as much as it did to seeing my mom on, like that's my mother. That was her daughter. That was her eldest daughter. And she didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to her in person. She gave birth to her. She had to say goodbye to her over the freaking telephone. Oh, girl. When I tell you that part there makes me angry, that makes me angry.
Wow.
Should no parent, should no, I don't
Right.
care how old, that part tears me up. It tears me because I was able to be there. This is her daughter. Yes, that's my mom. This is her child. And she had to say goodbye through the telephone. Oh, Nettie, I ain't gonna cry. I'm trying to hold it in. That is the most heart wrenching thing through it all. One of the other parts of it, you know. And I think when you share your story with people, because sometimes you just feel like you're alone. Sometimes you feel like, when you're going through something, because you're in your own world, and it's okay. But when you share and people see, because like I said, this one thing I could say, you don't look like the hell you've been through. I could look at you and I would never in a million years, when I remember the things that you tell me, I'm like, ain't no way. You don't look like the hell you've been through. I don't look like the hell we've been through. Because at the end of the day, thank God that God kept us in sound mind. Listen, I keep bringing it up because it's the truth. It's the truth. It's sound mind. We don't look like the hell we've been through, and it's not easy. There's no time. Only thing I could say is find something to just help you deal with it each day.
Yes. I was just getting ready to get to that. You know, what I think like group therapy is really good. I know
Mhm.
that if you call your doctor's office, that they are able to provide you local group group sessions for people who have lost. I know that when um, one of my daughters had a miscarriage and she had to actually deliver the child still. I
Mhm.
guess it would be considered a stillborn. She too had to go through some group support, and it seemed like that really did help her to
Mhm.
be able to cope with it. Because then they gave her, some other social things to do outside of there. They had
Mhm.
um, some I don't know what you call that, like a memorial for your
Mhm.
child, and but they do that in support of, they do it as a group, and then
Mhm. Mhm.
there's like different things of ways of coping with it. And so she did about 2 or 3 sessions. I think it was about 3 sessions, and she said, "Okay, I think I can move on," because it was very hard,
Mhm.
very
Oh,
hard for her
absolutely.
to deal with that, to have to go through the delivery, and deliver my granddaughter, and then
Mm.
like the rest is you know you know what I mean, like, so
Yeah.
she, but she did some sort of group therapy. They are there, like I said, you just go to your family doctor and they'll be able to provide those things for you. They have a network of,
Mhm.
so it's not like something that you just
Absolutely.
try to find on your own. Your doctors are
Mhm.
specifically there to help that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I was saying,
what
the
are
healthy way
some of
to
the other
cope.
ways? Yeah, right, healthier ways. So what are the other ways that you think, in your opinion, that
Like you
uh,
said, health groups, support groups, definitely a big one. To me, I look to writing. I think with poets, for whatever reason, I don't think any poet really starts off with a happy, oh yes, it's always something, detrimental. And I think that's what brings it out as poets,
meaning?
which is a beauty. It's still a beauty because it's a way of release. I think that's what we need. You need a way to release. Everybody's not always a crier. Everybody's not always a talker. That's something that I had to learn because I always felt like, recently, I had a friend of mine pass, and I'm just like, when I'm looking at the family, I'm like, well, how come you're not crying, or how come you're not? Everybody deals with grief differently, you know. And I think you just have to just learn to, accept that with people too, because everybody is different. But yeah, support groups, writing your gift, again, sometimes just it's okay, when you get comfortable enough to even talk about the person. Like I said, me and my brothers, every conversation, we would talk about my mom, but we would talk about her in a good sense. Um, it's funny as I get older, or like time, flies, like I really look more like my mother. As even certain ways I act like her, and it's comforting. It's scary, but it's comforting, and it's comforting because it's like I get to bring that to my brothers. So even though she's not here, they could see her in me. And a lot of times they say that they're like, "Oh my God, like you're turning into mommy," or "Mommy used to say that," or "Mommy used to do that," and it just helps, it just helps. But talking about it, just whatever it is, like I said, it's just don't ever feel like you have to be rushed into it, and to feel like, again, like it's a one moment thing. It's not like you lose your, I don't know, your wallet or something like that. No, you could replace your wallet, you could replace your money, but you can't replace what you love, what you lost. And you know, um, like you said, because there's so many different types of grievances, like you said, with jobs, and something I wanted to touch on real quick. When you was talking about like elders and retirement, and a lot of people are like, how come, from when I retire, I would just sit at home all day and da 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 da. But you have to understand their mindset. They don't want to do that. They want to keep active. A lot of times they feel like if they stop doing their life, it would slow down. And in their minds, they're like, okay, then if I'm not doing anything, what am I good for? Some people just feel like they just need to do something, just show their worth. Um, it's just so man, it's just so much. It's so much to this. Like I said, it's even this hour or two we spent like all day on it. It's so much to dive into it. Again, I just appreciate just sharing because, like you said, you never know what people are going through. And like you said, looking at you, and I will keep saying this, you never know you went through the stuff that you went through.
That's true.
Don't look like it. So it's a
Mm-mm.
testimony to show that
Woo!
you were able to get through it.
Yeah.
It
And,
wasn't
and and
easy.
and I didn't get through it by myself. I had
Yes.
family. I had my own immediate family, and then I had my mother.
Hmm.
I had my church home, and like, and that goes back to what I was saying. Like your life, as you know, it really depends on where you fellowship at, where you go to church at, um, because I believe that if I wasn't rooted and planted somewhere, I just wouldn't be here today. I just wouldn't,
Oh
because this
yeah.
this was meant to take me out. That thing that happened with my husband and I, that was supposed to take me out. Like I thought of killing myself because the pressure was
Mm-hmm.
just too much. You know what I mean? Like, but then you succumb to yourself and you realize, okay, wait, I have kids. You know what I mean? I have to take care of
Hmm.
them. Like I had to. That's one thing that I feel like I got from my father, is that he was a provider, and that's what I mirrored.
Hmm.
Like I was always going to be a provider for them.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't
Hmm.
believe that it was my cup to be alone in the process. But
Yeah.
with God, I'm never alone, right? That's what everybody would say.
Reg-
But
hmm.
like sometimes it does feel like you're kind of alone. But
Hmm.
when I really look at my situation, I was completely blessed. I needed, God knew what I needed, and I needed to be around people that was going to help me be accountable and help me be accountable for my thoughts, because my thoughts were always in line for what, the way
Hmm.
that God sees me. And I was very negative about myself, you know, didn't
Right.
think I deserved anything, you know. But I mean, that's it on my plate. Like we talked about the loss of divorce, the loss of health. Like my health declined. I ended up
Hmm.
developing asthma. Like prior to COVID, I started developing asthma. But
Hmm.
I don't have high blood pressure. I
Oh.
don't have high cholesterol because
Hmm.
well, I did have those. Okay, I'm sorry. So during the depression, I did have high, all those things high, but I had
Hmm.
asked them, allow me an opportunity to do things natural, because I wasn't trying to be on any, prescription or anything. And so I
Right.
just changed the way I ate, how I ate it. You know what I mean? How often I ate bad things, and like,
Hmm.
I'm not a sweet person, but I know I had to take charge of, you know the the weight gain. I had to take charge of that. Um, or at least the way that I ate. I had to change that because it wasn't good. But then I had to deal with a miscarriage for my daughter, and so I was glad I was in support of that for her. But then I dealt with the loss of income, and what was the other thing? The loss of income, the fear of having to sell my family home. I didn't end up
Mm,
doing that, thank goodness. And then the loss of a
yes, right,
friendship, and then just loss in
right.
general. And then like not feeling and the loss of safety in the trauma.
Yes.
Like I felt like I was just not safe. You know, I was convinced that I did not make good choices in relationships. And so I didn't feel safe with, even trying to be in a relationship with anyone. You know what I mean? I just like, no, I don't make good choices. I don't make good choices. That's, when that thing happened with my, with the girls and my ex-husband, like, no, I don't make good choices. I don't even want a relationship. And I went that way for a very long time because I don't know anything about love. That's what and sometimes I still say, sometimes I still say that, but I do that as a force to like, listen,
That
watch what you're
wall.
about to do. Like that is my wall. Like, and uh big ups to the person that wants to try to climb that wall because I don't
It's all
trust in
right.
relationships at all, but for
Mm,
good reasons. You know what I mean? For good reasons.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like you don't know
Absolutely.
who
And it's
who's
funny, you know, and that's why I said, sorry, drop my pen. Like you said, as far as trust issues,
yeah.
that's why I say, even with me for doctors, I have
Right.
a fear of doctors. And it's not because I fear them, I just don't 100% trust because of the situation.
Right.
And I know I shouldn't be that way because I should not neglect my own health.
But that's
Um,
a real feeling
and
though.
yeah. And like, it is. And when I go into my doctor's office, I sweat bullets. Now I have a phobia. So that's
Mhm.
why I said certain things, it happens. I actually have
Yeah.
a phobia of white coats. And that's a real thing. And I know the doctor means no harm. And I know, it's only for my best interest. But it's just hard for me to just trust to say, hey, I could take your word at face value that this is XYZ because
Yeah.
of what happened to her.
Yeah.
Currently, I am on blood pressure medicine.
Mm.
That happened after my grandmother died. Now, this is the thing. I don't know if it was bacon because the day I went to my doctor's, now this is the part that's crazy. I went to the doctor's finally for a checkup. Everything was fine. Blood pressure was fine. Everything was good. She gave me a good bill of health, thumbs up. So I celebrate by going to Burger King and getting a double bacon cheeseburger, right? I tear this food up. Didn't think anything of it. And it's funny because my husband, he happened to have that same, and this is how God works. He happened to have gotten a new blood pressure cuff. So I was like, oh,
Mhm.
you could just, take my vitals or whatever. Girl, they were numbers I ain't never seen in my life. They were 3 digits up and down. I said, oh, I think that thing is broke. You need to bring it back. So he had his other cuff and it was the same. Pressure was through the roof. Numbers was I ain't never seen that on me anyway in my life.
Mm.
So I'm frantic. Anyway, next day I took it again. They were high. My husband was like, go to the hospital. Oh, come on. I'm like, so I had to go to the hospital where my mom died at, go
Oh
in the
my
ER.
God.
They was like, yes, your pressure is high. Went to the doctor. Anyway, so long story short, so yes, now I'm on blood pressure meds. Luckily it's small, but I still don't want to be on them. So I just watch I don't eat any bacon at all, like nothing
Mm.
at all. But like just like we were talking, how it affects your health,
It does.
whatever the situation is. Everything it's a trickle effect. But at the same time, you could correct it. Certain things you can, certain things you can't. I'm learning what's that saying? something about control what you can and let go what you can't, or something like that. It's that phrase, and it's almost that's kind of how grieving is. As much as we wish we could turn back the hands of time, and like you said, we shoulda, coulda, woulda, and did this and did that. But you know, if we had those magical powers, of course we would. But like you said, we're living in a reality, and I think that's a part that I had to come to the realization of that this is now my new reality.
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is our new reality. How are we gonna handle this now? This is actually what's going on. What are we going to do? And when you mentioned your children, our children and my brothers and I say that if it wasn't for our kids as well, I'll say God and our children, yeah, that we probably would be, yeah, right there with them,
Mm-hmm.
right there with
Yeah,
them,
for sure.
because it, they, and like you say, how you taking a piece of your father and you was like, he's the provider. Now you're him, but you're doing the things that he was doing. So now whatever you're doing is still that life. It's
Mm-hmm.
still, what I'm saying? I know they say
It,
they never really die. They don't, because they're still part of you. Your DNA is in us. When we look in the mirror, and this is something, I wrote another poem, but it's something else. When I look in the mirror,
mm-hmm.
not only do I see me, I see me, I see my mom, I see my grandmother, I see her mother, I see her mother's mother, I see her mother's mother's mother. So it's a beauty when they say, the DNA. It's
Mm-hmm.
real because when you look in the mirror, I bet you look like your dad because most girls usually look like their fathers. So when you look in the mirror, you see him.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing things, as your children will see, well, this is something Pop Pop used to do, or this is something my mom used to do. So it's just trying to find ways to, okay, I know it's not, but how can I do? All right, this is what it is. So these are just little things that I do that helps me on a day to day. It might sound corny, but it's what actually helps me. I could look and like that lady in the mirror, that's not just you, that's everybody else before you. That's why they say that lineage is real, it's important. My daughter is the next, so now she's me, she's her grandmother, she's her great grandmother. It's that's it's true. You're the next generation. So that kind of gives me that little upliftness, like, okay, she's with me because I'm her and she made me. So that's kind of how I kind of cope with it too. Like I said, I know it sounds corny, but that's just that's just a way that it helps
No.
me.
I take
'Cause I,
many times where when I'm with the kids or whatever, and like, I'll start with a memory of Pop Pop. He recently just had a birthday in December, and
hmm
I was a quiet that day. I was just quiet, just trying to deal, you know, with
hmm
my dad's birthday. But I know when I went home after work, I started to talk about Pop Pop, and I actually have the chair that he sits in. When he passed away, I took
hmm
it. It's in my room. It's a little, just a little lawn chair. Not a lawn chair, but
hmm
chairs, single chairs where you
like little
put the
lounge
legs
chair.
up. Yeah, so
hmm
I have that in my room, and when I want to be close to him, I sit down, and that's when I write. That's when I write my poems, and
mm
I just kind of keep them alive like that in my thoughts, and um, not to stay regretful, because sometimes that creeps up, but I do.
Absolutely.
I do have positive memories of him. We have laughable memories of him, because the
hmm
kids were able to, you know, be with him part of their life, but yeah, that's just kind of like how we're dealing with that. And if I could say anything to our viewers today, just treat every day like it could possibly be your last day with them. don't, my mother was very adamant yesterday. She came in my room and just said, "Hey, I'm anointing you," and she started to anoint us and anoint the children. And I don't ever want to leave here without praying for you guys. And she kept, now she's telling me, don't leave here without praying for your kids and praying for yourself and your safety and all that other stuff. And so we're just trying to do our due diligence with the immediate family that I have, which is a large family here that, we all coexist together. So that's what I'm doing, is just making sure that I'm taking care of mine, and then being sensitive with people at work with theirs, and, you know,
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
you know,
And that's another thing. We was kind of like touching on that a little bit. Is sometimes, and I don't think we mean to, but we do get desensitized because it's just like when you're still dealing with your own grief, and it's not like you don't care.
hmm
But it's hard to put that emotional tie into something because it's like you're still dealing with it. Only thing I could do is I always say my deepest condolences,
hmm
to you and your family.
sure.
If you need anything, I'm here. But I don't really give like a whole like spiel like, oh yeah, you're gonna go, mm, because however y'all gonna deal with it is how you're gonna. Again, like I said, if you need me, I am here. I could give you encouraging words, like you said, just help you. But like you said, just kind of like, you know, like I won't go to any funeral. I refuse to go to anybody else's funeral. If anybody else is passing, I am not going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I can't do it. I cannot do it. Is just and it's
It's hard.
okay. And yeah, and that's another thing too. Don't let people make you feel guilty about how you grieve. That's something that I had to learn too. Like I said earlier, it's okay if you don't want to go to a funeral. If you don't want to cry, it's okay because at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with, again, I will say, your new reality
hmm
and dealing with it, and how, because everybody's not emotional. I am a crybaby. I know you're a crybaby too, and it's okay. Some days we might not even feel like crying. Some days we just feel like leave me alone. Like I said, I have days
Well,
I don't even want to be
sometimes
around
I'm
anybody.
mad. So
Yes,
sometimes I get
you're
mad.
angry. Yes.
Yeah,
hmm
for
it's
sure.
it's a trickle effect. It's definitely a roller coaster. It's definitely a roller coaster. Some days you're up, some days you're down, some days you're going straight, some days you're loopy. You don't know, but at the end of the day, you know,
Mm.
if you could catch yourself and be like, okay, take a breath,
We all
relax,
just
just
have to
stop, just pause.
understand. We all just have to understand that it's the biggest. We understand that it is the biggest challenge that people will face, right?
Yes,
Uh, and that we
yes.
also have to understand that we have to go through a grieving process, you know.
hmm
And then we all also understand that during this grieving process, if we need additional help, that you should get the resources to help you. Um,
Absolutely.
it's, especially if you're dealing with, you know, why them, why not me? You know what I mean? Like, why do they have to go? They should just, you know what I mean? Like when we start bargaining,
Right.
for reasoning, some people are stuck on that and they stay stuck on that, you know. Um, and so sometimes they need a little extra help, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Join it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Whatever it is that you need to help you get through, because at the end of the day, it's about just getting through it
Right.
each day. Each day, each moment.
One
I'll say each second.
day at a time.
You
Yes.
know. So absolutely, yes. So it's it's one of those committees that it sucks to be in,
Yeah.
but it's nice to be an ambassador to speak
Mhm.
about it because
Mhm.
somebody that's going through might not know. Again, they feel lonely. They don't know like what to do, what next, and again, I thank you for this, and because again, it's
Welcome.
needed.
I had to
It's
have you
definitely.
on. I had
I
to have you
appreciate it. I
on. I knew
do.
I knew you had some words to say, and just
Oh, girl, I had to
some
condense them. I was like,
wisdom
wait
and
a minute.
yeah, I know, and some wisdom too. I knew you had some wisdom in that, and you have experience in that. And this, and again, folks, this is just our experience. We're no therapists. We're no, disclaimer real quick. We're just trying to
Yes,
share our experiences and what helped us. And I think it's important, what your circle looks like when you're down, and people need to raise you up.
yes,
Um, and then there's times where you just got to learn how to encourage yourself. So that's
absolutely.
it
And I
for
just wanted to
my.
just say, just real quick, even the poetry
Mhm.
community getting on
Yes.
Instagram, because during that time, that was when everything was closed down and the whole COVID,
You
and
had to
everybody
do
kind
it.
of came to social media. You
Right.
you know, and just meeting this. So like I said, this was another blessing because the different circles of people that I've met, I would have never had met you if it wasn't for
Mm-hmm.
poetry, you know what I mean, if it wasn't
Facts.
for the other great people that I've met, during this, and were supportive even outside, when I lost my dad, just the love and the support with that. And that was just something,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave out, because if it wasn't for that either, um, it would definitely would have been harder. So like you said, just having that circle. So I thank you, to everybody, to my poetry family, to you, to everybody that was there, um, during the hard times. And then, we had great times, but the
Yeah.
poetry community was amazing. Is
It
amazing. So
is.
I
It
think,
saved my life.
um, yes,
It saved my
it
life.
really did.
Hmm.
It really
And
did.
I
It
morphed
really did.
into this. I
Yeah,
I didn't even know it was in me.
girl,
Let's talk about that.
listen,
Like
first of
I
all,
morphed
can
into
we
something
talk about
I
that
didn't
real
even know
quick?
existed.
That part. That part. Look, we on here hosting shows. God bless you doing, you know what I'm saying? Like all the different things that came out of it would never have thought in a million years. Never. I mean, so
Amen.
again, that's the blessing of it,
Mhm.
using the gift and letting it lead us to where it is now. And this is only the beginning. Like I said, it's so
Yeah.
much more. It's so much more,
So much.
but it's just nice. It's nice. It's
Well,
nice,
this ain't gonna be
girl.
the last time we hear from you, so
Oh no, it's not.
it won't be the last.
Definitely is not.
It ain't the first, and not gonna be the last.
No, it's not. No, it's
Girl,
not. But
I
I
love
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for
I love
taking the
you.
time out to be with me.
Absolutely.
Just to
Yes.
share our heart. I know that your time is valuable, and I just thank you. And I'm gonna work on figuring out how we can, what I mean, transfer all of this to IG. I've been wanting to do it. Before there wasn't an
Okay.
option, but now there's an option, but I don't know how to do it. So I'm gonna send you
Oh,
like the
okay.
directions, and maybe we could like maybe you
We'll
can
get it.
figure it
That's
out.
okay.
All
That's
right.
okay. Listen, however, whatever it is, but again, whoever
Mhm.
hears this, whether it's one person, two people, whoever, just hope
Exactly.
they could just take our words and just, we can just help one person. Sometimes, like you said, it's just one person at a time,
That's right.
and give that person help and hope, and let them know they're not alone. And like you said, there's resources. And if you're a writer, write. If you like to take pictures, take
Right.
pictures. Whatever it is,
Right.
use your gift to express. If you like to
Mhm.
paint, paint. I bet you this will probably be the best work that you've done. Let me tell you something. Some of the pieces that I wrote, I could never duplicate it again.
Mm.
My feelings were raw,
Yeah.
raw,
Mhm.
you know, raw. So, it's just to get out, and, when you're able to share that with somebody, to share that realness, like I said, just being on here talking, it's not
Mhm.
easy. It's not something like, people just take for it. No, when you're sharing your story, like you said, your vulnerability, you know, it's it's a release, but then at the same time it's almost scary, but at the same time it's like, who cares? Because it's like, you know what? I feel better about myself. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
as long as you feel better about yourself,
Well, I already feel
and that's
better
all that
because I
matters.
was able to release some things that I was probably bottling up,
Yes.
and So I already
Mhm.
feel better. So I'm a
Mhm.
witness.
There you go.
You know.
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am. But this was fun. This was
Yeah.
fun. And it's definitely not going to be the last time. Oh my gosh. Like this was definitely needed. And again, I thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Well, thank you. So, listen, if you have stumbled upon my page, you have, listened to it, if you felt that it was helpful, please share. You never know who's going to help, who is going to free. Next month, we have Promise Israel, who is a social media influencer who is going to be blessing this broadcast next month. We had to push her back a month. And thank you for coming in, Poetic Serenity,
Oh,
for filling in for January. I appreciate it. I know it was last
absolutely.
minute, but you always on the go. You always like, yes, I got this. I'm gonna.
Listen, I was waiting. No, this is long overdue. So
It
no, but
was.
I appreciate it. It was,
It
and
was.
I can't wait.
All right, girl.
So thank you, man. All
All
right,
right. Well,
have a
just
good
stay
night.
on. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
end them.
Okay,
Oh yeah, and follow her, Poetic Serenity. She's under Mallory Davis, right, on Facebook, and then her
on
IG
Facebook,
is. Was that
Poetic Serenity on Face. I mean, on Instagram.
on Instagram? And then it's with a
Right.
double Y at the end.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, when you get off of here, just put your social media wheels on there
Okay. All
in
right.
the group
Will
chat.
do.
All right. Bye.
Okay.